Welcome back for another episode of the Performance Mindset Show. I'm your host, Amy Calandrino, CEO of Beyond Commercial and author of the now best-selling book, From Perfect to Real. This show is all about leveling up in business, real estate, leadership, and life by shifting the way you think, grow, and lead. So each week, I'll bring you conversations with top performers and mindset experts who are building big lives. So if you're ready to trust your path and grow with intention, you're tuning into the right show. Be sure to subscribe and let's get into it. So I have today with me Dr. Jeff Gross, and he is in Las Vegas, Nevada. And what's really cool is he's come across some new natural killers. They're called NK cell-derived exosome treatment and immune enhancement as part of, his regenerative medicine and in his journey. But I'll let him tell you a little bit more about his practice and how he has gotten into that. And then we'll dive into all the granular detail.
Thank you for having me. Nice to meet you, and congratulations on your book and bestseller. Awesome.
Being next to John Maxwell, that was pretty cool. So
awesome.
It's still holding on. So
very happy to hear about that. Yeah. Working on one myself, so I might have to tap you for some information. But thank you for having me. I briefly practice regenerative medicine now, and I didn't think I was going to do that. I didn't start out doing that, but that's where things have taken me. Most of my clients are, people open-minded, people looking for alternatives to the traditional watered-down, cookbook-driven sick care system stuff out there. We help people who are trying to avoid surgery for, let's say, knee degeneration, spinal problems. We help people with anti-inflammatory benefits of regenerative medicine, that's stem cell-based medicine and biologics related to that, who are fighting inflammatory problems, long COVID, autoimmune problems, recovering or want to prevent, inflammatory related diseases, recovering from a heart attack, stroke, things like that. A lot of our patients are biohackers. They are wanting to be at the top of their game. Maybe they want to do better on the pickleball court or the golf course or in
I had
life.
This hat on earlier.
There you go. This is the week for that, right? And in case this airs much later, the Masters are this week. So that's the reference. And that's what we're doing. And then very recently, as you alluded to, is we have been trying so hard for a couple of years now to get a hold of something we now have. And those are called natural killer cell derived exosomes, a bunch of fancy medical term meaning a very high performer in our immune system is called a natural killer cell. It's a white blood cell. We have probably 1 or 2% of our immune system is made up of these cells. Their job is to go around and remove messed up, damaged, screwed up cells in our body selectively. They don't hurt our normal cells. They just go and kill these, hence their name, natural killers. So this isn't, a TV series about a serial killer, but these are the serial killers in our body for good reason. And they remove cancer cells. We make cancer cells all the time, accidentally. And it's our ability of our own immune system to edit those out, to take them out of our system. Cancer only takes a foothold when we can no longer police that system, survey our body and remove those. They also remove something called senescent cells. And these are affectionately called zombie cells, right? These are cells that are, not dead yet, but they're bloated and boggy, and they release leaky toxins, bad proteins, pro-inflammatory proteins, inflammatory being bad word here. Mm-hmm. And they go around and take up resources. And the more of these you have, the more these senescent cells, the more senescent you are, the more senile you are. That doesn't mean just mentally senile, but you're physiologically or bodily or cellular senility. So if you can remove these, then you have a younger cell population by percentage, and you function with a younger biological age. So even though you may be 62 at your birthday, you may function like a 48-year-old if we can remove all your senescent cells. And that's what people want, because the less you keep your biological age from accelerating, the younger you are effectively, and the longer you'll live healthy. You'll have a longer health span. So these NK, natural killer cells, we'll call them NK, make a certain little signaling particle. And in biologics, we call those extracellular vesicles, or exosomes. And these NK exosomes are doing the work of the NK cells. So we now can get our hands on the NK exosomes, and they can be used off the shelf. They can be used intravenously to help treat cancer, or use in between cycles of maybe chemotherapy and other treatments. If you're going through more traditional treatments, they can be used if you're high risk. Maybe you have a BRCA gene or something, and you want to do everything you can to stay healthier. And they can be used perhaps if you're in remission, to keep you in remission longer and fight that risk. Now, these are new. They've been available for a short while in Europe and Asia. And
I was going to ask you, where do they originate?
We get them from Europe now, and they come from a lab certified by the European Union's equivalent of the FDA. And we have them here now in our clinic in Las Vegas and making them available to people. And this is the tip of the spear on alternative and cutting edge regenerative medicine and cancer medicine. If you look at a population of patients who have a cancer diagnosis, and you measure their natural killer cells, they have reduced natural killer cell numbers and reduced natural killer cell function. And we don't know if that's the cause of why they got cancer, but it's certainly curious and suspicious. So I can now help people, by sort of hacking and improving their natural killer cell function by giving them back these exosomes.
It would seem to me that what type of screening do you do to figure out the amount, like the ratio that someone has to these, to figure out, how much additional supplementation of the exosomes that you receive? How do you figure that out? What does that look like?
Well, we look at someone's labs. You can find out how, white blood cell breakdown, natural killer cell. There are tests for that. They're not cheap tests, but we can do them. But sometimes we just use them. We have what we think is a fairly standard dose based on protocols they've been using in Europe for a while. And if someone's got cancer, we like to have a measurable response. So maybe they have a PET scan, they have a few metastases, and we can use the IVs or directly treat the metastases by injecting directly into them. Sorry, I got stuck on my words. And we can therefore measure by repeating the PET scan down the line and seeing if we've been able to help eradicate that lesion. So other times we can use blood markers. There are certain cancer markers in the blood. And then if we can treat with, let's say, IV, intravenous NK cell exosomes, and watch those markers go down, then we know we're moving things in the right direction.
Very cool. And so it's sometimes you're using it for someone that already has a cancer diagnosis, but then sometimes it's more the biohackers that are getting out ahead of things as well, right?
We've been traditionally using stem cells and stem cell derived exosomes for that purpose, for slowing biological aging and improving performance, improving cognitive clarity and energy and motivation, all these things, improving heart rate variability for those of you wearing a device that measures that, which is a really sensitive health metric. We've been doing that for a while, but we can level up and do even better by removing senescent cells through the NK exosomes. So a lot of our high-end biohackers will sort of do, the exosomes intravenous on a regular basis, and are now trying the NK exosomes, the natural killer cell exosomes, as sort of a new offering in that same area.
That makes a lot of sense. What makes the activated NK cell-derived exosomes potentially more effective than traditional, like chemotherapy? Well,
there might still be a role for chemotherapy still, depending on the cancer and the diagnosis and your doctors, and you need to look at all the options, right? But chemotherapy is a poison. And the whole strategy of chemotherapy is to poison the tumor faster than you kill yourself with the poison. So, and I said that in a way to make it sound like chemotherapy is evil. Chemotherapy can work. It can be effective. But that's what you're doing. You're trying to harm the tumor faster than you're harming yourself, and you taking advantage of the fact that the tumor cells are growing out of control and dividing faster than our normal cells. And that's how you catch them with the chemotherapy. And that's why it comes in cycles, gives your body a chance to recover. So we feel that the natural killer cell exosomes are more direct to the cancer with no known side effects. We have not seen anyone have any side effects yet. So we don't. Different tumors require different approaches, different number of dosing schedules, and we are sort of improving our experience in that we are at the cutting edge of this.
One thing that I learned while reading over your materials is, do someone's natural NK cell exosomes that they have, the ones that they naturally have, do they weaken with age, is what I understand as well?
Yes, our natural killer cell count and function, which is the weakening, diminishes with age generally. And that's why the risk, the incidence of developing a cancer diagnosis later in life goes up. So we believe that correlation is probably as close, if not the cause of why that happens.
Because you just don't have as much of a protection naturally.
Correct. Even though your immune system may be healthy, this part of the immune system is just not doing its thing. In fact, this parallels one of the theories of aging, which is called stem cell exhaustion. We have stem cells in our body even as older adults, but they're just not doing what they used to be able to do. Because when you're in a 3-year-old and you cut yourself, it heals within a few days, right? The scab is gone and you're like, wow, that was quick. But when you're, 75 and you bang your elbow on the door, you have a bruise for 2.5 weeks or longer.
That is true. Yeah.
So why is that? The stem cells just aren't as good anymore. They've been exposed to the same things our bodies have been exposed to for decades, right? Things in our food we shouldn't be having. Things in our food we need but don't get. Water supply problems, things in the air, pollutants, toxins, pesticides, electromagnetic fields, neurostress, all the things that are supporting this damaging chronic inflammation and oxidation in our body. The stem cells get affected by that too. And that's why I don't, some doctors use your own stem cells when they do procedures. I don't like to do that. I like to use fresh, donated, ethically sourced, approved materials, from FDA compliant labs. The only thing we don't get from America are these NK exosomes. They will be available directly in America at some point. They're just difficult to get enough of them concentrated. When I got the first allotment from this particular source, one of the first sources in Europe, I took 25% of what they had. Like that's, I had 25% of their source. So, there's not a lot to be had.
Well, how does that? I don't even know how that works. How do they create them and renew these and come up? Well, probably the same way stem cells is, right? Just ethically sourced and those types of things, or what is that?
Yeah, it's like if I gave you a 10,000 piece puzzle and I said, start sorting. Okay, well the blue piece is over here, the end piece is over here. You start the whole process. So when you take stem cells from a donated source, so a woman has a child by C-section, congratulations, it's a boy. Thank you for donating your amniotic fluid, your umbilical cord, these things. So they take those cells and then they run them through a process where they by receptors on the cells, they can identify out the natural killer cells. So they've got millions of cells, and then they pull out 1% of them maybe or less are NK cells, are natural killer cells. So, but these are a really good source. So they take those cells and they usually put them in a petri dish or a flask where cells can grow with some nutrients. We call it medium, right? They give them some stuff to grow on. It's got sugar and salts and things like that. And they let them divide, and then they have sort of a dish of these things. And then those cells are producing the exosomes. Sometimes they stimulate them with light or something to get them sort of, to flourish and produce. and then they take the fluid off of there and they filter it down by ultracentrifuge. So they spin it really fast, basically, and they separate out the exosomes, which are the vesicles that measure 50 to 150 nanometers across. So these are nanoparticles. They are about 1/1000th the size of a cell. Cells are already small. These are much smaller, right? And then you just have to make enough of that over time to get a dose. So it's a process. And plus, those cells, you don't want to have them divide and divide and divide, because eventually they get aged. They get changes in their DNA. They get a copy of a copy of a copy. And so they want a fresh renewal of those cells over time as well, so that you're getting the best cargo in those exosomes. Because remember, exosomes are little bubbles off of the cell. And those bubbles have a little bit of a fatty membrane, a lipid membrane, and in it they have peptides. So you hear all of this stuff in the biohacking world about peptides. What peptides are you taking?
Yes.
Well, we make them naturally. So there are peptides in there. There are, if you go into a hot saunas are very good for you, right? Because they stimulate a little stress in your cells that builds resilience, and you release something called heat shock protein. Well, those heat shock proteins are in the exosomes, for example. Now, NK cell exosomes have perforin and granulin, and these are enzymes that dissolve the cell. So they're sort of the killer. They have a very specific exosome, but those exosomes only work on the abnormal cells. So there's a whole mechanism, this is well studied, by which they don't bother our normal cells.
Wow. It would seem to me it would take a lot to go ahead and produce this amount.
It's intense. It's hard to do, and
quality,
right. And we keep the quality by only allowing a couple cell divisions, and then collecting the exosomes. And certainly, you'll want a certain count, and you want a certain, it passes the muster. And of course, they make sure it doesn't have any infectious particles. It's all screened. And this is all done through a certified process that's the European version of the FDA. And when we buy those products here in the US, the regular stem cells, the stem cell-derived exosomes, the other biologics, we're also following the FDA certified labs that have the high quality assurance levels.
Yeah, I'm sure, with it, being backed there, it's just a matter of time where it makes things over. I think sometimes in America, there's a little bit more bureaucracy. Just a little bit.
A little bit. Hopefully we're seeing some of that maybe get sliced off here, which is nice.
We'll see. Yeah. My husband's an attorney, and he has a lot of business clients in all different fields. And sometimes he has some fun with the FDA. So it's great. So do you have any particular case studies or success stories from patients that have treated with the NK cell exosome therapies?
Yeah, again, this is very new. So most of my experiences with regular stem cell derived exosomes, we call those regular, but they were the hottest thing,
I know.
Recently, and we still use them quite a bit actually. But the NK cell exosomes is new. So we're treating people as part of a cancer care. I have some people. I have one patient who is. He's got some kidney issues, and he's not a candidate for chemotherapy. So his oncologist was doing nothing for his cancer. They couldn't give him chemotherapy. He's got a lung mass and some metastases. We are giving him IV NK cell exosomes. We want to do something for this gentleman. So check back with me in a few months. We're going to repeat the PET scan and some blood markers. I'll let you know if we've moved the needle in the right direction. That's the kind of thing we're doing. In terms of the non-cancer side, I've taken some NK cell exosomes myself. I'm going to be checking my biomarkers, my aging biomarkers in a little bit. There is a case study, a medical journal publication about multiple cases where they gave NK cells. They didn't have the exosomes at the time, but this is published a few years back. They gave NK cells to some people, measured their marker. There's an enzyme marker for senescent cells. They leak. I think it was, beta galactosidase or something, which is an enzyme, but don't quote me on that. I have the article if you need it. And these patients for up to 2 years were measured to have reduced senescent biomarkers, so reduced age-related biomarkers in their bloodstream. So now we like that's cool, but what we really like, and when we give IV exosomes, stem cell exosomes, we love when people say, I felt more energy, I slept better, my brain was on fire, I was motivated, I could get more done. My aches and pains were gone, because these are also the stem cell derived exosomes are highly anti-inflammatory. So you're suppressing any kind of chronic inflammatory changes in your body, like osteoarthritis, degeneration of cartilage, all those things.
So the new exosomes that you're doing, the NK cell, what does that process look like? You said you were doing it intravenously. Yep. Is it like a day-long process? And what does it look like as far as like recovery?
Yeah, so I mean, this is very simple. This is like getting just a bag of IV fluids at your corner IV therapy place after you've had the flu or something. So it's just an IV. We do some blood markers and some things ahead of time, and then we do this, and then we stay. We keep on you, but it's basically like 45-minute to an hour IV. That's it. Same with the stem cell derived call them regular exosomes, but they're already superb. But the NK cells are really, the goal of those was cancer cell and high-end biohacking for performance. So the real high-end biohackers, the people who want radical life extension, they're coming in and looking for that. But it's anti-aging enough to do the stem cell derived exosomes.
Right.
And for the past couple decades, you could go to Central America or Mexico and get get stem cells to slow the aging process. Now, remember, we've learned that those stem cells are doing wonderful things. The most wonderful thing they're doing is delivering exosomes. So why do I like exosomes maybe more than stem cells? Because we're just skipping the delivery vehicle. We're going right to the business end. And exosomes are less costly than stem cells. So for about a third of the cost, you can have stem cell derived exosomes and likely all the benefits of exosomes or of stem cells without having to, go out of the country. Although we can do stem cells here, and we have, the results are no less with the stem cell derived exosomes. Now, the natural killer cell exosomes cost a little more, and they're harder to acquire, but my main goal in acquiring them was to really jump into the cancer space, because we couldn't give stem cell derived exosomes to cancer patients because we didn't want to accidentally cause them to grow more. Now, we don't know that happens or not, but because
that makes sense.
Because we're quizzical about it, and we're not sure, because there's some evidence that goes both directions. One says, if it could cause things to grow and flourish, it could cause the tumor to grow. But other things say it supports the immune system in a good way to help fight the cancer. Well, if we're going to support the immune system, we should go right to the NK exosomes. So that I think most of our utility for use of those natural killer cell exosomes would be for helping people with cancer.
Primarily. And then would there be a case if someone didn't have cancer, and again, they're one of these radical like performance, I want to beat these things, would they do both, or is it a choice between the two?
No, I mean, I probably wouldn't do both at the same time just because I want to see what one does. I would probably, evaluate that person.
And again, you're measuring the blood work as you go along. Yeah.
We make sure everything else in their health and wellness sphere, your preventative sphere is good. Your sleep, your exercise is on point. You're strategically on point. We diet, supplements, nutrition, hormone optimization, things like that. We make sure that's all teed in. And then we would probably try a stem cell derived exosome first, because that's very common, and that's what we do, and we get good results. And then only those who want to, add a little booster to that, if they want to try the NK cell exosomes, would we do that?
Yeah, but it seems to me too, like what you're saying too, like you have to have you don't want a dirty fish tank, like that you're adding the stem cells or the exosomes or the NK cell exosomes. If someone is like a busy executive and like goes out to happy hour and eats triple French fries every night and like hamburgers, doesn't work out and doesn't have all those other things under control, probably do that before they.
Well, we listen.
Or sometimes you still have to do that.
Very few of our clients are perfect, right? And we do know that there's a time to celebrate and a time to enjoy, and there are things on our planet that may not be good for us, but we enjoy them, and
right.
But we have to temper that with, if you have a couple of drinks with your friends on the weekend, but you exercise 5 days a week and you eat a lot of protein and clean protein, and you're a few carbs and a few refined things and a few seed oils, it'll be okay. If you are going to happy hour every night and having mozzarella sticks, and don't get me wrong, I love mozzarella sticks, but you're probably not doing the right thing, So we can give that person stem cell derived exosomes, but they're going to get more out of it. Their body, their cells are going to be receptive to do more with them if they tee up for them first. Some people will even fast the day before a stem cell or exosome treatment to enhance that benefit even further. Because fasting is one way to clear out some of your senescent cells.
I was going to ask you, why would they do that? Okay, I didn't know. So fasting seems to be like all the rage right now, and people doing different periods for different. Is that something that you also help people with as the regenerative medicine front? Also
Absolutely.
Figuring out the proper cadence, because I think some people should do certain amounts of time versus others. Correct?
Yeah, I mean, we do these things. We have biotransformation services. I have people, we do a whole year biotransformation where we take them out of weight and fat, and we get some goals, and we get them during those 12 months completely changed, looking different, feeling different, move their biological markers in the young direction, all that. So we could do that. We could do it on a limited basis. We could do it on a longer basis. And that includes hormesis. So hormesis is, again, that slight stress on the body that builds a survival resilience. So fasting, and that could be intermittent feeding, intermittent fasting, all the way up through strategic fasts. Typically you can renew your immune system and cause your bone marrow to really kick out some new immune cells in a 72-hour water fast. So I have a lot of my biotransformation clients where we do at least one or two of those a year. And then so we can work out the cadence, maybe once a month you do a 1 day, which are very easy, right? So, you can, other forms of hormesis would be the hot sauna or cold plunge. I'm a bigger fan of the hot sauna. I just personally tolerate it better than the cold plunge.
Especially if you get out of the habit of it. I have gotten out of the habit of the cold plunge, and it's killing me lately.
Right. Some people say the benefits from the cold plunge are when you get out and you feel so good, you release the dopamine from getting out of the cold, but it does increase your metabolism. About 20, 25 years ago, there was a thing called shiver therapy. If you wanted to lose weight, you go in this cold pool for like 20, 30 minutes every day, and you lose weight just because you shiver. And shiver is one of the most incredibly metabolic demands you can put on the body. So that was a big thing. So other forms of hormesis, though, would be high intensity exercise, right? So interval training. So when I go to the gym, for example, and hopefully people listening will take this to heart. I grew up in high school. We did 3 sets of 10 biceps, 3 sets of 10 chest, 3 sets of 10. Why? I don't know. It's some tradition that someone came up with. Turns out that if you did 1 set to failure instead of 3 sets of 10, you'd get more out of it. You'd make more muscle and burn more fat, and your heart likes it better. And you release myokines, small peptides from your muscles that go throughout your body and support heart health and brain health. And that's why people that exercise in their elder years have a lower incidence of Alzheimer's dementia, because they're suppressing the inflammation that's contributed to that disease and helps potentiate the disease. So I do 1 set to failure. You want to get the weight around 15 to 40 reps for that set. I like closer to 15. You can get a workout done pretty quick, but you got to go to failure. It's got to burn. It's got to hurt that leg.
Yeah.
And if it takes you 80 reps you got to go up in weight. If it takes you 3 reps, you got to go down in weight.
This is so interesting. Yeah. And even just 1 round to failure is better than 3 rounds of 10.
Yeah,
I'm actually writing out. I write my workouts in a book, and I'm like back in biceps this day, and this leg for legs, and this.
You could do the same thing. You could stay with your same workout, just 1 set to failure, and you'd be done in half the time or less. And then when I do cardio, I do the interval stuff. So you could do a 20 or 30 minute stair stepper or treadmill. I'd much rather you get on the treadmill for 20 minutes at a high incline at a good resistance and work hard, or go fast, slow, and change it up, than do a 45-minute just jog.
Yeah. I'm more of like a walk run kind of person. And I prefer that. So
that really builds the heart health and helps drive HRV, heart rate variability, which is really what people should be measuring. And you can measure that on your Apple Watch. You can measure it on your Oura Ring or Whoop Band. Some of the Garmin devices, some of the newer rings coming out have them. And it's the difference between each heartbeat. So we want variability. Think about a zebra.
Yeah, that's true.
The zebra is grazing in the tall grass and relaxed, just chilling out, tails wagging, and all of a sudden a lion creeps up on the zebra, and the zebra has to immediately sprint, has to go from complete relaxation, getting out of bed in the morning, and sprint to save its life. So its heart has to adjust. The engine has to respond to the gas pedal immediately. And then if he outruns the lion and the lion takes off, then the healthiest zebra will go right back into that relaxed, I'll eat some more grass now mode, right? So the quicker the heart can adapt, the higher the heart rate variability, and vice versa. So you want to really push your heart rate variability up. And then people who track their heart rate variability will notice if they lose an hour's sleep, it'll go down. It's that sensitive. If they have a couple beers the night before, it'll go down. If people in the house have the flu, but they don't yet, it'll go down a day or 2 before they have the flu. So It's an early warning system. They could take an extra vitamin C, zinc, whatever they like to do, chicken soup, bone broth, get all healthy, to stave it off or slow it down, or actually slow down the infection or speed up the recovery. So that heart rate variability, we've noticed when we give people stem cell derived exosomes, their heart rate variability shoots up. So we know it's helping the cellular health at that level. So track it. I wear my Apple Watch and I track my HRV on my iPhone. Even though I sort of wear 2 watches because I like my nice watch and I want my health metrics. So
I wear 2 when I go golfing. So I have my golf, what do you call it? But I'll have to check that out. That's super cool.
If you usually just
look at it in the morning?
You got to look back at your data and collect data, but you can look at it any time of the day. In the Apple Watch, you go to,
I see it.
Show additional health data or something like that.
Oh, this is my workout.
When you scroll down, it's because there are a lot of things you can track, and it's a few thumb scrolls down. It's called heart rate variability.
Oh, show all health data. Yeah, I see it. And then
it's in there, and then you can pin it to your summary and check that out. Now you have to collect data over time to get it good. Now, I don't wear my Apple Watch at night, so my data is a little wonky. I've ordered a new ring to track, and so ask me a few months down the line.
That might be what I want to do too. It's like I don't want to wear my Apple Watch at night. Like I just want to take it. Plus, it's not going to be charged for the morning.
Right?
Like you just can't.
Right.
So interesting.
Yeah. And I'll give credit to the people who developed the Whoop Band. I think their data scientists really push the HRV stuff and they have taught me a lot. And
the lower the heart rate variability, the better, or the higher?
The higher. You want the variability.
I've gone up every day, like this week. So
you get a good week.
So I'm like looking at it. So cool. Okay.
Yeah. Check that out. Track it a little bit. Or, if you happen to like not sleep well one night or whatever, check it. See, you'll watch it go down. Or if you a few too many glasses of wine one day, you'll see it'll go
Saturday.
down.
You'll like see the results from Friday. Yep. No, it's just like, no, this was really cool. I love learning about new things and just learning how to level up and, just being where I'm at in my life too. I'd like to learn about it. And most of the listeners are executives, leaders, those types of folks that are looking to level up, grow things. And I think too, what's cool is that once you really start to go down this journey, it's like it's a mindset, and you are it helps very much to continue.
I agree with you, and we have quite a few people who are pushing that envelope. They've been successful. They want to keep it going and make it last, and this is a good way to invest a little bit in yourself, to enjoy what you've earned.
Absolutely. So where could listeners learn more and reach out to you? I think this has been a really cool conversation.
Oh, thank you. My practice name is Re CELLebrate, because you're celebrating the renewal of your cells. And if you just search that word, I think we're the only people using that word at this time. It's ReCellebrate. You can find us on the web, all the social media channels, LinkedIn, etc. Reach out to us through any of those. We meet most of our clients remotely by video like this, and start there. We can order high-end labs. We will look at things that your regular doctor probably won't. And if you want to know more about peptides, stem cells, exosomes, NK exosomes, you're trying to avoid a knee replacement to keep on the pickleball court, please give us a call. Those are the types of things we deal with. Not just knees, of course, but all joints and spine.
All the things, yeah. I think that's great. So, yeah, I would encourage the listeners to check that out. I know, actually, my husband, we have a 14-year age difference, so he's really been talking about it lately. So if you see the Calandrino name come across, you'll know. So, but no, I think this has been great. I really appreciate you sharing all this knowledge with our listeners. So,
thank you.
So I want to thank everybody again for listening to the Performance Mindset Show. If today's episode gave you something to think about, please share it and subscribe so you don't miss out on what's next. Of course, you can connect with me on beyondcommercial.com or amycalandrino.com. Until next time, stay grounded, stay growing, and keep showing up for you. This is Amy Calandrino signing off.